Welcome to Emotional Sobriety, the next step in recovery, with Dr. Alan Berger and Tom Rutledge. I'm going back to couples therapy. It's all about negotiating apartment space. Honestly, that's why we're going back to therapy, is because we're back in the zone of anxiety over, did I move a cup over here when it's supposed to be over there? And different, permutations of that.
Well, especially if you handle space differently, which Dee and I do, it's a very important thing. But the key is his, hers, and ours. Everybody needs to have their own space. I don't care how small it is. Everybody has to have their stuff, and they can do whatever the fuck they want. And we don't get to move it. We don't get to complain about it. We don't get to do any of that stuff.
I don't know if you intended it this way, but when you told me like a few months back, you said something like, nobody wants to go to couples therapy. Or that,
God, no.
But there was something liberating in that. There was something liberating about it. Just like
everybody should be validated. I think women would agree, but I don't know that. I know I've never met a man who would disagree with that. It's like going to the goddamn principal's office.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you know you're in trouble, but you don't know what it is, and it's like, yeah.
Exactly. And so knowing that, and kind of, I feel like I can just go ahead and do it and release myself from the expectation that it's not going to be principal's office business. But maybe, I do get something out of it. I mean, in the long run, I feel like I do get something out
always,
of it.
Because we've never stayed with a therapist that wasn't any good. But so we always had really, and the one we spent the most time with, I credit her for saving lots of myself and my marriage. It's like, but it's just, talk about something you don't control. You actually control your own therapy. Even if your therapist decides he wants you to think about something else, it's like, you don't have to.
Hey, you're wearing a fish shirt.
Yeah, Trey Anastasio.
Nice.
Did you go see that?
Yeah.
Did you go see him? I've got a Tom nutshell we can maybe kick things off with. Live this moment as if you chose it. Might as well, and maybe you did.
Because when I was younger, I would speak to people and I would tell them how the universe worked, because I knew how the universe worked. But apparently I forgot along the way, and I do not have any clue. I have ideas, I have fantasies, I have thoughts about it, and it's like, and I might even on some days have belief that, hey, I think this is right. But ultimately, and this is, I don't know if this is an emotional sobriety thing or just a good advice for human beings, is that just that humility, that beginner's mind, where we go like, we need to proceed by the choices we make with belief systems, but we don't need to latch onto something. And well, it is emotional sobriety, because if we latch on too tight, what we're doing is setting ourselves up with an expectation-oriented disappointment.
One of the things that you're suggesting, Tom, and I've been thinking about this a lot, is that our expectations are an attempt to control our reality.
Absolutely.
Right. That's what, and it's based on this big lie that we're really challenging a lot with emotional sobriety. You don't need things to be the way you think you need them to be okay. And that's
right.
so short in terms of our ability to be able to cope creatively and adapt to an incredible range of different challenging situations. We see that with like the work of Frankl, right? In terms of Man's for Meaning, when he talks about what he witnessed in these concentration camps, is that men were able to find a way through that difficulty and use the experience to grow themselves spiritually. Pretty remarkable. If we can adapt to those conditions, right?
Right, because what could be further away from his expectation about how his life would be?
Frankl ruins it for everybody. I've always thought with AA, I've noticed there were times when I start complaining about something, and then I realize the guy sitting across from me has dealt with so much worse and has such a better attitude. And Frankl, just the extreme of that. It's like I can't survive this. Oh yeah, Let me introduce you to somebody.
And I think that's it. Is that to me that provides so much hope. Is that we are so much more capable than we realized.
Yes.
You've seen that, Tom. I mean, I help people discover that in the work I do, and I know you do too.
Hmm.
Is we help people discover that there are possibilities that you aren't aware of, that if you can discover them, you can find a way to get to okay. I'm okay even if things are not the way
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
them to be.
My favorite source, or one of my favorite sources for that, is Christopher Reeve. And I'm pretty sure it was his first interview after his accident. It'd been quite a while since his accident, but one of the things he said, he said, so many people tell me, I couldn't do what you're doing, and he said. And if you haven't listened to his book, I suggest you listen audible, because he reads it, even with his breath thing and everything. His first book's called Still Me. I get chills even when I'm talking about it. But in that situation, he just says, you cannot know until you're here. You just can't.
Yes.
It's not like that's an idea that you might not. He said, he said, there is no way, and you can just tell in his voice how much he means this. He says, there's no way that I would think I could do it at all.
Well, and I'll just add a little complicating factor here is that, and this is not too much tales told out of school. I'll leave the details out, but I have an ex that I was struggling with last year, and talked about it with you guys. And I've also been on the other side. The shoe's been on the other foot, where like I'm just trying to help someone, and I'm working with someone, or just trying to support someone, and they're just not getting it. The people aren't machines, they aren't switches. You can't I have no control over that. But you can worry at something like that for a really long time, and it doesn't always pan out, or people can work their whole lives at this. This is like one of the most difficult shifts that any of us could have to make, and I had to make it in my own recovery
That's right.
at a certain point.
And
There's no
it's
one
not
thing
up
that
to us.
causes it.
Not
Yeah.
somebody else's life is not up to us. And to me, I just want to say this real quick, because it's like, and I'm not picking on you. It's just because I think but you just give a great example. What happens when you get stuck like that? You focus on that other person not doing what they need to do, and if you pan back, you go, oh, there, I'm going to be okay as soon as that guy listens to me, and it's like, nope. I mean, nope. No matter what you're into, you can pan back far enough to where you'll get to where you see, where do I need to change, and it may or may not help your client. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it'll help the person because you let go of that, but. And it's not a matter we can't, and it's like we don't control other people, but I think this case is like it's none of our business what people do.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the change I needed to make, or that's the adjustment I needed to make, is to kind of let go from controlling that situation.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I did, and but yeah, I mean, it's I think emotional sobriety, it's not going to come on the clock that we prefer.
No shit. We, let's get that into a nutshell.
Let's get that in a nutshell is right.
Ain't gonna.
Let's
Okay.
get that into a nutshell is right.
Love it. That's great.
Well, I really like this one, and for me, this ties back to adding more self, which I noticed you've been talking about
Mhm.
on the workshops lately. Um, Give yourself permission to doubt. Give yourself permission to disagree. Give yourself permission to decide. Add more self. And you wrote that in your nutshell omnibus, Tom, and or that's what I've called it. And
What? I don't. I guess that's an oldie. And by the way, the last line you put in there is Allen's, not mine. I don't want anybody thinking I'm trying to steal from Allen's work.
no, I welded some Allen on there. Yeah.
Okay.
Listen,
That's a co-written.
in terms of this stuff, I think our ideas have merged together so much.
I do
I think
too.
and Tom, so I don't ever feel that, man. I feel that you've sweetened the pot so many times, and I hope I've
Mhm.
sweetened your pot.
Mhm.
And I
You're right.
think that
Absolutely.
we
Yeah.
both incorporated
Well, but
each other's concepts.
Yeah. Well, and the truth is there is, from the very moment we started working together accidentally, back in the day, we did that accidental workshop, and it's like, I mean, we began to discover how similar we are in that way. And here's the thing that we can talk about some other time. In all the years since, what I've also learned is how we're different. The different way, how we really think, sometimes sometimes a little different, but sometimes no, we're kind of very different there. And it's like, I love how that all stays together. Learn from each other. That's one of the things I know you and I have been doing for years now. Yeah.
What
Very
really
true.
helps a working relationship is impassioned points of view, but that don't like butt heads with each other too much.
Well,
Or just a healthy amount. Yeah.
and sometimes, because I'm beginning to have this relationship with my partner here in the office, Beth, and Beth, Patrick. It's like
Well, yeah.
because we both have done eating disorder work forever, and it's like it becomes like about, and Alan, and it reminds me of some of the work that Alan and I've done, because we'll be talking, and one of us will say something that go like, we kind of puzzled for a minute and go like, oh, and then you get the next piece, oh yeah, if that's true, we could try this. It's
Well,
fun.
there might be a way of me kind of clarifying this nutshell, or kind of like, pointing it more towards the theme is, I think having the courage of your own point of view, and is what comes up when I read, give yourself permission to doubt, give yourself permission to disagree, give yourself permission to decide. I can only, like relate this to my own experience. In recovery, it's taken me years to get my self-esteem up to a place where I feel like I can state my point of view and I could stand by it, or clearly articulate it. And to even have a self to add to the goings on in my daily life. And yeah, and I think that definitely relates to emotional sobriety.
Very much.
I just want to add, when I wrote that too, I want people to know you can disagree with yourself. That we don't, and because our culture kind of says, if you have a disagreement, especially within yourself, you have to resolve it. You have to decide. But if you understand that we're multiple, not singular, I can walk around. I mean, how many times do you say something? And everybody does this. If you listen, it's like they'll say da 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 da, and then immediately they go, yeah, but da 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 da, and it's like, what because the way we're listening to, we say, we just saw one guy talk, and the other guy kind of came in and maybe even just said nah, and then gave a different perspective. It's not, that's fine. You can have all that inside your own mind and be, or like I say, passed for sane.
Yeah. Right on. Right on.
I'm always worried how I look when I don't arrive with certainty. Like I think I always have this like, this worry that people aren't going to take me seriously unless, like, no, I'm sure about this. And, and I think that's true to an extent. You got to be clear and strong, in the way you communicate with people. But, and I think it's gotten better over time. But, yeah, definitely. And by the way, the kind of paradox of that is like, thinking of myself in the third person too much always makes me more awkward, and, messes with my ability to communicate. And, that's why what's helped with my pitches in AA is that, I had a friend tell me, if you angle it towards a newcomer, or if you kind of treat it less like I need to find the most wise and spiritual thing to say that's going to be helpful to people, and just focusing inwards so much, if I just really put it on the outside, think about the person that's on the outskirts, or like, how can I help, and just like, personify this person, and talk to them, and what would you say to them to try and bring them in. He said that it usually comes out better, the pitch. And then since then, they have come out better. But it's come from just like releasing myself from the need to kind of like sound good, and just think more about,
yeah.
I'm in conversation with somebody who needs it.
And what's the name of that book that Irv Yalom wrote, where he wrote notes after the sessions, and his client wrote notes after the session?
I don't remember the name of that one.
It's I've done that experiment.
What's his name?
Irv Yalom, Yalom. He's amazing. It's like, but I've done that with some clients since I've read that. I've not as a regular thing, but sometimes I ask people to bullet point what they got from the session. Never, ever, ever has something they put on the bullet point be anything I would think of. I would even think of. I mean, and that's what he found. I love what he put it. He said, I thought this was a great concept and a great metaphor that I had created. And, and then I'll use one of my examples recently where somebody said, well, I've told you about this thing in my life, and I could tell that you didn't judge me. I'm going, when I read it, I go like, that's amazing. But I didn't think it was just me.
Is it Love's Executioner and Other Tales of Psychotherapy?
No, that's not the book. It's I'll find out and
Okay.
Yeah. Allen's got a lot of books.
Right.
So Alan, what are some recent thoughts in adding more self you've had or experiences?
Well, God, I can give them to personally trying to get back from Lincoln, Nebraska to Pennsylvania. It took 48 hours.
Jesus.
And it was back to this situation where the weather in Chicago was terrible. Flights were being canceled left and right. Uh, I saw that I wasn't going to get back on my first flight in time to catch my connection. So when they asked for volunteers to go later in the day, I said, of course I can. I'm going to be stuck in Chicago anyway. So decided to go later. So my flight was at 6 o'clock. Well, so that meant I was at the airport at, I'd say, 5 a.m. So I've got 12, 13 hours until 6 p.m. at night. So I just added more self. I said, what do I need? I need some sleep. So I found a corner in the airport. I put my backpack down, put my, bag next to me and threw a coat on me, and I fell asleep for about 2.5, 3 hours. Got up, had some lunch, did some stuff on the computer, listened to some great music, and then the 6 o'clock flight got canceled. And United was great. They gave me a hotel room that night, and I go into town, and I decide that, I'm here. A massage would be great. I found a place that gave a massage real close to the
Nice.
hotel. So I went and added. I looked for opportunities to take care of myself instead of getting frustrated that this wasn't what I wanted it to be. And sitting there in a bunch of resentment and annoyance and all of that. And even when I was at the counter dealing with the gal changing my ticket for the next day, because I decided to route myself through Denver instead, I had to wait. She had to go deal with other things, close down planes. I mean, things like that. I probably stood there for 35, 40 minutes. And she comes back and she says, she goes, I wish everybody was like you. She says, it's so easy to deal with you. She goes, I don't feel any pressure. She says, I just wish that everybody could somehow show up like that. Now, it's like Tom said, I'm not being any different than I am now because of emotional sobriety.
No, if you took her on a time travel backwards, she could see a different guy.
Well, I would be standing there bitching, right?
Yeah. No, but that's the fun part. You're just being you.
I was just being me, and I was rolling with it. I was just rolling with it. I I wanted to go eat at this one place. They didn't. They shut down their food, and I looked at her and says, "God, I'm so disappointed." She said, "Honey, let me make something special for you." I mean, even that kind of stuff. I mean, things were just happening. I just showed up, and I was dealing with things that way, and it was really, it was okay. I got home the next day at about 7 o'clock, so I traveled for almost 48 hours or more. And look, I was exhausted. I was fried that night. I mean, I missed a few appointments because I was so hung up in all this travel stuff, and everybody understood. And I got back, and I, once again, it was this experience of adding more self, just saying, this is reality, Alan. How do you want to, what's the best way to cope with this? And how are you going to get through this thing where you're rolling with the punches, man, rolling with the punches? And that's a big part of emotional sobriety sometime, man. We're gonna get, life is gonna take shots at us. And a good fighter is gonna learn how to roll with the punch. So even if you get hit, you don't take the full impact.
Right. Well, it's I mean, this is something you've talked about. I mean, ever since I've been working with you, and you mentioned it in this. It's like it's one of the I guess methods or techniques of this stuff is always be looking for opportunities,
That's it, man.
because that's
What did you call
because that's one of the first things I ever learned from you. I'm sorry,
that?
go ahead.
Positive opportunism. Isn't that what you call
Yeah,
it?
yeah, and that's one of our collaborations, isn't it? It's like,
That's right.
yeah,
I love that
it's
one. See, I use that all the time. You're right. There's always opportunities, but if I'm hung up in this shouldn't be happening, I'm not going to see them. I'm not going to find them.
well, you're sure not going to find somebody say, "Honey, let me make you something special." It's like no, you're not. It's like it's it's see, the thing is, you make people's day better. See, this is a friend of mine called when he referring to me, he said, "How's your ministry going?" It's like, because I talk about this, and it's also it's that deal where it's selfish in that sense. It feels really good to be the one person who's not an asshole in the crowd, and and somebody notices, says, "Well, thank you," and they make you feel better. You've made them feel better, and everybody else is on their own.
Yep. Right on. Right on, Tom. That's very true.
That's that man. That's a hell of a airport story, though. That's
I was just thinking it's kind of like The Terminal. Do you ever see that movie with Tom Hanks where he's just
uh,
out
I didn't
there?
I had a sense what that movie might be about.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's
exactly.
it's those opportunities are around us all the time.
mhm.
See, that's kind of what you were saying too, Tom, is that if we really bring this consciousness to our life, we're going to be able to spot those things instead of looking at all that isn't. We can start to look at what is. And that's such an important shift in consciousness.
I always remember, Tom, when you sent me that screenplay for the idea when you were getting your cancer treatment, and that's some good positive opportunism. You're just between a rock and a hard place with your treatment, but you're just like, wait a
Sitting in
minute,
chemotherapy. Yeah,
yeah, what if I wrote a little dream of what this, what could be happening here, and kind of like dramatize it, and
now that's that,
yeah, I
because
still think it's a great
what I
idea.
don't know if we've ever talked about that, but what was happening to me is I was sitting there and I was just writing this. I wasn't thinking about writing. I was just making up a story with the people that all And if you've ever been in a chemotherapy room, I mean, there are people, it's a place full of compassion, first of all, and I always say it's also a place where you can really learn that it doesn't matter how you dress. You know, cancer patients will teach you how to dress. It doesn't matter. It's like, go wherever you want in your pajamas. Nobody cares. It, yeah, it's just a story, and it's like Alan's saying. You spot it. Tune into that, because it's always there for us.